In order to continue the relationship with her husband, she slowly aimed the gun in his hand at her own heart. She gently held her husband's hand, but she felt that she could not fight back. Because she knew that her husband, who was betrayed by the enemy, could not live through today. She watched her beloved wife die in her arms. Aiming felt like he was going to die. Faced with a fierce enemy, he did not fight back. Instead, he let his long hair pierce his chest and ended his own life, just to fulfill the promise left by his wife. In this life, we have no fate. In the next life, we will meet again. If you don't recognize me by then, I'll say your tea is cold. I'll give you another one. But in order not to make any mistakes, Aiming did not immediately reincarnate after his death. Instead, he waited for Wu Shi under the silver tree where they met. Unfortunately, after his wife's death, he forgot his original promise. Not only has he been reincarnated as a human being, but he also married a teacher. Fortunately, God was moved by Aiming's infatuation. Finally gave them a chance to reunite. On this day, the reincarnated wife followed her husband to the ancestral house. Just came to the old house where she fell in love with Aiming. Suddenly, he had a moment of sadness in his heart. Then he was shocked to find that the yard was clearly ruined. The silver tree that grew here was full of prosperity, as if someone had been taking care of it carefully. Because he was too obsessed with it, his husband thought he liked it here. So he rented this house on the spot. But soon, his husband left because of the outing. Basically, he can only go home once in a few months. So he told his sister to come over often to accompany his wife. This evening, Agio, who was alone at home, like usual, when he was waiting for his sister's arrival, he noticed something was going on outside the yard. At first, he thought it was his sister's prank. Pretending to be strange, let the other party come out quickly. Unexpectedly, a stranger monk slowly walked out of the silver tree. He was so scared that he immediately took out his dagger and looked at the other party cautiously. And when he realized that Agio was scared by himself, Aiming immediately fell into the tree. In this way, the two persisted for a long time, until Agio was sure that the other party had no malice. He was brave enough to hold the tea, came to the table under the silver tree. Then he greeted the other party. Although I don't know who you are, we have no grudges. I believe you won't hurt me. So since you're here, why don't you come out for a cup of tea? However, when he saw the other party, his heart was suddenly saved by a pair of invisible hands, as if he and the person in front of him had a heart-to-heart past. But this idea is ridiculous. So he was soon thrown behind his head. I didn't know that the two of them did have a bad fate. It turned out that Aiming was born in a mountain village. At the age of 6, he once witnessed his parents being killed by enemies. After his brother learned about it, he led his brothers to kill all the enemies. However, when he saw the boy running away with his younger brother, he was moved. Besides, even if a 6-year-old kid ran away, it's hard to survive in the mountains. So my brother didn't choose to kill all. There are many things in the world that cannot be obtained by hard work. Especially love, like my husband. Although we grew up together, many people think we are a good match and are destined to become husband and wife. But as long as I don't agree, he will never force me. For a moment, Aiming had a glimmer of sadness on his face, but Agio didn't notice because the sound of his sister came out of the door. Aiming, who was worried to be found, quickly hid in the letter. In fact, if it were anyone else, they might have told the story to the people around them. But Agio didn't know why, he just wanted to keep this secret. Not only that, when his sister complained, I didn't go the wrong way, but I just couldn't find your door. While sighing, he picked up the teacup on the table and ate it. Knowing the reason, he not only didn't pick up the other person's flower tea, but also immediately put the teacup on the table and put it back on the window of the house. He was afraid of being destroyed. Until the next morning, when his sister helped him dress up, he said, Your brother texted me yesterday that he would be back in a few days. And the money we made this time, plus the savings, is enough for us to buy this house. That is to say, we can live here again in the future and don't have to run around And it's weird to say that I never felt that there was a place I couldn't leave. Only this place makes me feel so good. What's even weirder is that I used to dream of this yard. The same table and chair, the same big tree in the yard, so I always panicked. Is the happiness I have now really mine? After the sister stopped, she thought she was sentimental. After comforting the suspect, she left confidently and left him alone to continue to guard the large yard. Fortunately, she didn't feel lonely. After tidying up the flowers and plants in the yard, she sent a letter back to her husband and told him about what happened recently. Of course, she didn't mention the stranger. Suddenly, the bell rang at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. She clearly remembered that yesterday at 6:30 p.m., when it was just getting dark, the stranger appeared in front of her. Even though they didn't make an appointment yesterday, she still had a feeling that the other party would appear today. So she put down the pen in her hand and poured the rest of the tea into the kitchen. Then she made a pot of new tea and came to the yard. At this time, the bell rang at 6:30 p.m. She lit the oil lamp on the table and waited for the familiar stranger to come again. As expected, with a gust of wind, Ming came as expected. Her and Agio's previous love was also rekindled at this moment. Agio, who was caught after the mountain village, was in a big fight at first, and even lost water and food. Unfortunately, Ming could only tie her to the chair and open her mouth to feed her. Later, although she didn't resist, she still refused to speak. Every day, she looked at the bird in the cage and said Agio. 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 Agio.